Welcome back to the program. Lou and Jackie here, always keeping you up to speed as to what is going on here in Central Iowa, especially right here in Des Moines. And when things are happening over at the Des Moines Public Library, we need to let you know about it, especially when we have a big-time author that's going to be here later on tonight. You have a chance to meet him. Absolutely.
Let's be honest, there's always something amazing going on with the library. Tons of events, especially in the summertime, all the time for kids of all ages, literally. But it's always amazing when we're talking about the Avid series. And unfortunately, this is the last one. So you have to come out. This is an incredible series where they literally bring in the author of some incredible literature that you're able to meet, talk to, and stand next to if you so desire. So we want to talk to Aaron Gurnis from the Des Moines Library. Thank you for being here. Let's talk about the Avid series and why it's so special, not only to us here locally, but for you guys as well.
Well, this is the 18th year of the Avid series, and this is, again, the last Avid of the year, as you said.
And Avid stands for?
Authors Visiting in Des Moines. It's a nice little pun, Avid reader. I don't, some people don't always catch that on the first time, so I always like to say that. But yeah, we bring in best-selling, world-class authors from across the nation, and we bring them in locally so people have a chance to have meaningful conversations with these authors, to hear them present. We've had some great authors this year, and we're wrapping it up today with Russell Shorto tonight at 7 o'clock at the Central Library.
Please do the intro of our very special guest here today.
This is Russell Shorto.
Yay,
he is the author of Revolution Song.
Okay, wonderful. So enjoy history, narrative history in your literature. Why is it important to be a part of a tour like this, basically, and come into a community like Des Moines so people can meet you?
Well, this is a book about the American Revolution, which affects all of us. This is history. I mean, I've written a history of the founding of New York. Obviously, that's of interest to people in and around New York.
Correct.
When you do a book about the American Revolution, suddenly it's much broader. And it's what I tried to do in the book is, there have been a zillion books on the topic. What I wanted to do was pick a cross-section of people from very different backgrounds, because we tend to get the story from the perspective of, you know, the men in the powdered wigs. Still, what about what did it look like from a slave's perspective, from a Native American's perspective, from, well, one of the figures in the book is a teenage girl. So I picked 6 different people, and I weave their stories together. And I don't emphasize the battles and the politics and things like that. I really just wanted to know, what did it feel like to live through that period?
And how did you gather that information for each one of these characters?
Yeah, very slowly. Because it turns out that if you're one of those men in the powdered wigs, there's lots of information. I write nonfiction. You know, I don't make things up.
Right.
So there's lots of, they wrote a lot of letters, everything was well preserved, but if you're that teenage girl, or if you're a slave, of course, it's hard to get the information. So over a period of a couple years, I kind of auditioned people for roles in the book, and slowly, you know, found one by one people for whom there was a lot of material, who were from very different backgrounds, and crucial for me, I wanted to find people whose stories fit together. These two cross paths at one point, and then later these two, because I write narrative, which means I'm a storyteller. I wanted this book to read as one story. I care about the reading experience. So you want to feel, oh, these connections. You get that kind of jolt of energy when people who you've been following their lives. I start with the birth of the first of them, and I end with the death of the last. So it's this long kind of epic. And then slowly these lives intersect, and oh, here comes this thing called the American Revolution, and you see them all get engulfed in it. And then you see, I mean, any war, even as momentous as that, when it's over, life goes on in some way or other. So you see their lives continue.
They say you're a nonfiction writer, and a very talented nonfiction writer. Now, when the stories are being woven here, are there the facts based on those stories that you're telling?
This is nonfiction. This is nonfiction. Everything is footnoted.
So these are all fact-based.
Right.
How long of a period of time, the reason I'm asking is, how long did it take you to gather all this information from each one of those characters?
Yeah, well, I mean, I probably spent 2 years picking the people. And by the time I had chosen them, I had, you know, 6 different piles of
How did you find them in the
stuff.
first place?
You know, it's not a scientific process. Libraries, the Clements Library at University of Michigan is the largest repository of archival, of actual records and letters and so on from the American Revolution. I spent time there, looking in indexes of books about the period, because I'm looking for the small people. You know, I'm not. Now, one of the 6 is a guy named George Washington, and so I liked the idea of taking the most famous person from the period and putting him alongside these people that you've never heard of, and pretty much giving equal attention to each of them, because then it kind of makes the point that all are created equal, which is what the period is all about. So that you see them all struggling with a lot of the same things that everybody does, going through marriage and children and all of those things, and this huge event that changed the world too.
So what can people look forward to when they come out and hear and see you tonight?
I like to talk about people, and I write narrative history, which means stories of people in conflict, and people are always in conflict, so that's kind of easy. And that's what I like to talk about. And so what I'm going to do is talk about that period, but really focus on these people, and which I haven't done now, but each one of them is a fascinating person. And that was another thing that I had to find people who were fascinating and who really excited me, because I believe that if I, as the writer, am not excited, then the reader's not going to be excited. That jumps off the page.
So who are these characters? You have George Washington, you have the slave.
A slave named Venture Smith, a Native American named Corn Planter. The girl, her name was Margaret Moncrief. There is a shoemaker from Albany, New York, named Abraham Yates, and a very interesting element of the period that's we don't think about very much. There was a real kind of class strife between commoners, like working people, tradesmen, and the elites, people like Washington and Hamilton and the others. So he really kind of gives that sense of what did it feel like to be, a man in the street. And then the last one is a British aristocrat, because I wanted to give the perspective from England as well. And he ends up running the war for England. And he never leaves. He's in London the whole time. So from him, you get that sense of how the English felt about it, the way they looked, which, again, we don't often get. So I like the idea of trying to come at this from as many angles as possible. And yet, these people, their stories all fit together.
Unbelievable. And we can experience that tonight if we head out to Central Library.
That's right. Doors open at 6 p.m. The program begins at 7 p.m. There will be a little Q&A afterward. Courtney Crowder from the Des Moines Register will be moderating, and then we'll have a book signing and a chance to meet Russell afterward as well. So it's going to be a great event. Plenty of parking available. You can park underneath the library. We have the lot at 12th and Grand, thanks to Principal. That lot will be open as well to us, and it's going to be a really, really good time. So come out to the last Avid of the year.
And remind everybody how much it costs to come and enjoy a great event.
It's free. It's free. Avid. Always free. I mean, it doesn't even cross my mind. It's so free. Yeah, it's always free.
Like the majority of things at the library, they're free.
Absolutely.
We're just very happy to have that be free for everyone.
Wonderful. A great thing happening here in Central Iowa, happening tonight. So don't miss out on the last one of the Avid series this go around. I'm sure many great things still continuing on with our Des Moines Public Library.
Don't forget to all summer long to dmpl.org/summer reading. Sign up for our summer reading program.
There you go. And we have a book you might want to be putting on that list if you haven't read it already. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Looking forward to another great event. dmpl.org for more details.
Thank you, gentlemen.